This hour is brought to you by Jeremy Temple Law Office of Bloomington. Personal injury, criminal, business, whatever you need, Jeremy Temple Law Office will get you taken care of.
Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Well, come on along and welcome aboard the Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary here on this Monday, January 20th. Appreciate you joining us, Jim Coyle, Todd Leary. We've got Jake at the wheel, keeping things on the track, hopefully. Indiana basketball, big win over the weekend. The women get underway tonight as well. Some NFL action, all kinds of stuff over the weekend, Todd, to talk about. Lots of it, most of it positive.
Fun time. It's funny how all those other games seem to be more fun to watch when Indiana not only wins, but gets a road win.
Dude, a road win it's like a unicorn.
Weird.
It's like
weird.
A unicorn.
Yep, don't know how to act.
It's kind of like when Indiana beat Michigan State that first time last year. I remember being in shock. We were down at Bubba's 33 getting ready to do the show afterwards, and I'm like, "Is this really happening?"
Yeah, that was so flukish though. Like
it was.
Now the fun part is we kind of expected them to win, and it wasn't. That was a fluke. This is
a different team.
It is.
Yeah, this is a team. Well, but and what I mean by is this is a team that should win games. That team that lost all those, they shouldn't have lost like that, but that this is a completely different and better team. And by that, I mean TEAM team.
Yep. Well, it's a lot different when you're revolving your play off of guys that shoot the ball from 2 feet from the basket versus when you're revolving your whole game around a guy that shoots 23 feet from the basket.
With a very poor percentage of that.
But yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, that's it's been good. And then on top of that, now Indiana coming off of a huge road win like we just talked about, because there's only been like 7 in the entire Big Ten season so far, 7 road wins. Indiana getting one of those. Of course, it's at Nebraska. But let me tell you, Nebraska's already beaten a couple teams at home, including Purdue. I think Iowa. I think they beat Iowa, another team that's probably going to make the tournament maybe. So you know that how tough every game is going to be. So if you get a road win, you take it and just take a victory lap.
Yep, no doubt. I mean, they're all going to be difficult. We can all say that and actually mean it. Like it's not just a cliche statement. Like the winning on the road is more difficult. Like this year, especially. In particular, they're just more difficult to get, and there's a few of them that you really, really need to get in case you have a slip up at home. And that Nebraska game was one of them. And they've got the way the schedule sets up. I've complained about it almost all year long, but it can actually work out as a positive if they can get on a little bit of a roll and winning that. Second game of a 2-game road trip and coming back home for 2 games could really put them on a good path.
Yeah, especially now after going through, we've talked about the schedule, how their schedule's kind of set up. I don't know if it's weird or not, but 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 2 off as far as home and away. Well, now they're on the 2 on where they're coming home, which is huge because obviously winning at home has been a lot easier this year in the Big Ten, but it's against 2 tough teams in this conference that are you're going to know that. I mean, every game's going to be tough, but they're especially tough. When you're a player, when the best teams are coming in, you know who's where. So these kids know who they're playing.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. I mean, it is definitely a situation that you're aware of. Coaches try to get you to take every game the same, and as long as you're doing your stuff, that's when coaches start to talk about as long as we run our stuff and do our things and cut the way we're supposed to cut, it doesn't really matter who we play. But when you're looking and you've got a goal, I mean, your end goal is to win the Big Ten, get to the NCAA tournament, make a run in the NCAA tournament, and when that's your goal, then obviously you keep track of who's coming in town. And this week, they've got 2 teams. Michigan State has separated themselves just a little bit from everyone else, and I think they probably are because of Cassius Winston and Tom Izzo. I think they probably are the best team in the league. And so you've got them coming in, and yeah, you look at it different. This would separate Indiana from another group of people. There's only going to be, Michigan State's probably only going to lose 4 games in all of the Big Ten, and if you can make this one of them, it'd be a big deal.
Absolutely. Hey, hit us up on the text line, comments, questions, quotes, whatever you like. 812-269-6367. That's 812-269-6367. Rodney from Indianapolis was on it. We were a few minutes behind getting started today, and Rodney was like, hey, no live show? So, hey, I appreciate it. I'm glad that our people are on it. They're ready. They're waiting to go.
We celebrate Martin Luther King Day with the best of them, but we're not taking the day off.
Nope, we take no day off. That's right. A happy Martin Luther King Day. That's right to everybody. Thanks for reminding me. Almost forgot about that. Ryan had texted in, said, great team play on Saturday. Duran was a big boost, and obviously post play as a team was great. Also, Green played really well in his lower minutes, and 9 players scored and contributed with a lot of rebounds. That's a great text and great comment, Ryan. Thank you very much.
Yeah, it is, and it's a good way to look at it. We talked about it in the postgame show, how many, how it was great for them to get a win, how those 3 guys on the inside contributed so much and really dominated the game in the lane. But the real positive I look out of the entire game is how many different things that they can improve on. And I'm not saying that to turn things back into a negative. It's a great thing to go get a win, and you didn't even play that great. And so there's a lot of benefits you can take away from that. If they'd have gone there and everybody would have shot, as a team, they would have shot 55% from the 3-point line, and they would have made 30 free throws in the game. I mean, that's tough to repeat and go on the road and do that. And they didn't do that. They didn't shoot very well from the free throw line. They didn't shoot very well from the 3-point line. But to turn it to a positive, they got a win on the road, not doing some of those things that they can do very well. So, yeah, there's a lot of positives. I was shocked, and this was a stat. I was just kind of going through it in my nerdism on Sundays. But the only person other than, those 3 guys who played so well on the inside that shot a free throw was Al Durham. Rob Finney, Devontae Green, and Armand Franklin didn't shoot any free throws in the game. And Al's were mostly at the end of the game when they were fouling, making, so driving to the basket is an area that's what that means to me. So driving to the basket is definitely an area these guys can focus on, and getting the other team, in this case it was Nebraska, but getting the other team in some foul trouble and being able to get some easy points from the free throw line it's going to have to be a factor for this team. They're going to have to do that in order to win big games.
Yep, Tim's got all kind of numbers coming in. Our front court scored, this is from Tim, a text from Tim. IU's front court scored 49 points Saturday. The back court's 23. He lists them out. Green and Durham and Finney, small numbers. But our freshman Franklin had the best game of all. Yeah, we know that. We need our 3 guards to step it up. Well, yeah, we've been talking about that. But they're getting there. It's not. It seems like getting this offense in a cohesive manner. We talked about in the Rutgers game. They tried to change the offense to a better fit to lessen the reliance on the perimeter shooting and shorter shots. They just didn't fall. This game and in the Nebraska game, they fell. So if they can do that in a consistent basis, can be a dangerous team if they can do the other things, like simple things, hit their free throws, take care of the ball, play good defense.
Yeah, and the improvement that the guards can have, it was kind of interesting when you really went through the stats. I mean, there's a couple things that jump out at you that just, I don't want to say, I mean, they just almost don't even make any sense. I mean, Armand Franklin, you and I watched the game together. We were sitting there and we make comments back and forth, which makes us kind of watch different things and watch what's going on in stats. Like, I could have never in a million years told you that Armand Franklin had 6 rebounds in that game. Like, I usually can remember when a guy does a good job rebounding, and because it just seems like the ball's in his hands a lot. And he did a great, quiet job of getting 6 rebounds. I mean, Devontae Green only played 14 minutes. He got 4 rebounds. I know one of the big focuses for Archie Miller, and one of the stats he really keeps track of is backcourt rebounding. And you got 10 rebounds out of 2 guys that came in off the bench playing your guard position. That's pretty good, and that's a big deal. That was probably a bigger deal in that game than what we realized while it was going on, because I certainly don't remember those guys having that many rebounds. And so, yeah, the backcourt has a lot of opportunity to improve. Armand made 2 of 5 3-pointers, and he was by far, he was the all-star of shooting. He and Jerome Hunter, those guys had 4 of the 8 3-pointers Indiana made in the game. And that's coming in off the bench. 5 of the 3-pointers that were made for Indiana came from the bench. So, that's a big deal. And that's a good thing for Indiana.
Yeah, quote unquote, doing the quote small things sounds cliche, but guards getting rebounds is a small thing that adds up to a big thing.
Sure.
And that's one of those things
their goal,
you're talking about.
Their goal for the backcourt is for the backcourt guys to have 12 rebounds. And I think they had 11 in this game. I think they've only accomplished the 12 rebounds one other time. So
and that's an active backcourt.
It is. That's a big deal. And so, when you've got the guards who come in, so Devontae didn't come in and light it up from 3, and Armand, he did make some shots. And, in 23 minutes, you got a pretty darn good line out of Armand. He had 8 points, 6 rebounds in 23 minutes. That's pretty good. Devontae having 4 rebounds in 14 minutes from that guard position, that's a big deal. That's a positive contribution and something. His stat line doesn't look that great. He only shot 1 of 6 and 1 of 4 from 3. He didn't get to the free throw line at all. But, overall, you got to look at some of the positives of what they did when they came in, and there was some good stuff that happened.
Absolutely, man. We got a lot to talk about today. The men, of course, coming off of a nice road win, and then they don't have much long to rest on their laurels as the Michigan State Sparty comes in on Thursday. The women are in action tonight as they hit the road in a tough matchup. Ty, they have to travel to Maryland, who, Indiana had looked like potentially the Big Ten favorite. Maryland is definitely a Big Ten favorite. Tonight is going to be a telltale sign. The women has not played well here of late, especially lost a game at home that they probably shouldn't have lost. But overall, the season's gone tremendous. But this is going to be a big-time game for them if they want to make a move towards winning a Big Ten championship.
Yeah, starting the year out, I know we had talked about from the women's perspective, Maryland was probably going to be the team to beat. And, they've kind of fallen off a little bit. They didn't get off to the start they wanted in the Big Ten play or in play overall. So, but that doesn't make it any easier. They've still got good talent and they're coached well. And this was one of the games, I'm sure, if you can go into Maryland and steal this game on the road, it would definitely set them aside from the rest of the Big Ten pack.
Yeah, they lost that game down at Iowa in double overtime, and Iowa's a good team. They're 14-2 or whatever, or they were good, whatever the record was, but they'd won like 29 in a row that time. And Indiana lost that game as close as it was, and then he come back home, though, and lay an egg. I don't know if that overtime loss took a lot out of them because they were uncharacteristic at home, but now you've got to go into the Lions' den when you go into play the Maryland's women's program. This is one of those programs that is just good every year. Right. Oregon, right. Connecticut, Tennessee, they're just good. They just are. So you got to be prepared. And that's an environment that they're preconditioned to that environment. It's not an environment Indiana's going to be used to.
Yeah. And the loss to Northwestern at home that we talked about is just so uncharacteristic for this team because of how solid the team is. They make their free throws. They take care of the ball. They had a 10 or 12-point lead in the fourth quarter, and for them, they're not going to give up a lead like that very often, and that's just surprising for them to have done that at home. But, yeah, going on the road to Maryland is going to be, it's one of the better women's basketball environments across the country, so it'll be a tough one.
Absolutely. We got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. What was that, Jake? Don Fischer's on the program today. We may or may not hear from Mike Schumann. We may have a technical problem that prevents that today. We'll see about that. But Don's on the show for sure. So if that's what you're worried about, no worries. Don will be with us as always. I was
worried, so I'm glad.
There you go. I'm glad I could put your mind at ease today. What a weekend, man. NFL playoffs. That was fun to watch. Patrick Mahomes, That dude, I remember you asked me, I think, about the game before, who I would take, and I'm like, there is no way in hell would bet against Mahomes, and I wouldn't. Although that game was a tight game, it's just like, we talk about how good Lamar Jackson is and how great of a season he had. He's still not at where Patrick Mahomes is. Mahomes had control of that in a playoff game like that, and just that's experience. But I think Jackson will get there. But man, Mahomes, he looks like he's got the king walk right now.
Yeah, well, my analogy of those two guys and the difference is Lamar Jackson tries to control the game a lot more with his legs than what Mahomes does. And Mahomes takes it when it comes to him. I mean, that run he made at the end of the first half yesterday was just incredible. But he does it when it comes to him. Like, his number one goal is to get other people involved. And I'm not ripping him. It just didn't work out that way in the playoffs for Lamar Jackson. He had such a ridiculous, unbelievable season. It's amazing. But, that game doesn't translate, to winning a Super Bowl near as much as what you look at a Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's trying to get everybody involved and trying to get other people the ball and get his playmakers the ball. And when he's got to run, he does. And he's very capable of it, as he obviously proved that. But, Mahomes just has that. I mean, he is – you can't even say the prototypical quarterback, because nothing the guy does is something anyone else is going to be able to learn to do. He's just a freak, and he's so much fun to watch. Like, he's taken that quarterback position in a completely different direction and to another level.
Well, we get to see Mahomes go again as Kansas City beat the Titans 35-24 yesterday, and the 49ers beat the Packers. So Kansas City and the 49ers in the Super Bowl, man. Looking forward to that.
That'll be a fun one.
We'll talk about that later. We've got lots more to get to. Indiana basketball, of course, we've got to talk a lot more about. But coming up next, the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, is going to join us here on Indiana Sports Beat. Coming back with that to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, brought to you by Jeremy Temple right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Ryan Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is A.J. Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
This segment is brought to you by Jeremy Temple Law Office in Bloomington. Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Of course, the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, joins us each and every Monday, and he does so today. Don, thanks a lot for joining us as always. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. Thanks, Jim.
A lot of traveling for you so far this early in the year, man, with the bowl game and Indiana. I've been on the road here lately. A lot of traveling early on for you.
Well, there's no question about that, but that's part of the gig, so there's no doubt we've had a lot of fun with it, and going to a bowl game is never a negative. So
No.
The only negative right now is cold weather no matter where you go.
I was just getting ready to say, the only thing we got to deal with right now is getting through January and February, and we're halfway through January. But when you're winning, that helps a lot. In Indiana, of course, coming off of a big win because it came on the road, which has been like finding a unicorn this year in the Big Ten. A huge win for the Hoosiers in Nebraska, Don.
Yeah, no question. It was a week in which Indiana had a chance to get two road victories. They didn't get it done at Rutgers, of course, on Wednesday of this past week. And that ball game was interesting because Indiana had its poorest shooting performance of the year and still hung in the ball game. Still had a chance at the end, but couldn't quite come up with the field goals needed or the shooting that was needed to win the ball game. And honestly, when you looked at what Rutgers has done this year, how well they're playing, they're 14-4, they're 5-2, tied for second place in the league at this juncture, and how well they played defensively. They've been one of the best defensive teams in the country, not just in the Big Ten, and they are playing some of the best basketball we've seen out of that program. Well, it is the best basketball we've seen out of that program since they joined the conference. So, without question, Rutgers was a challenge. They didn't get the job done there because they shot it so poorly. Actually, worst shooting performance of the season for Indiana, 32% from the field, 28% in the second half, and just hit 2 of 18 three-point field goals. And still, we're in the ball game toward the end of the contest. Just didn't get it finished with a 59-50 loss to Rutgers. And you're right, the Nebraska game was hugely important, and it was a huge win. I think the thing to point out about this game and about Indiana's win on the road, just how difficult it is in the league. There have been 49 games played this year in Big Ten basketball with Big Ten teams facing each other, and only 7 times has the team going on the road won a ball game. That's 42-7 in favor of the home team so far this year, and Indiana's got one of those 7 wins now away from their place, and that was against Nebraska this past weekend.
Yeah, and Nebraska has shown they're a team that has gotten better and better. They played Indiana as tough when they were here in Assembly Hall. Then, of course, they followed that up with a win over Purdue at home. So Nebraska is a team that we knew it was going to be difficult for Indiana, especially since that first game with that unique lineup of a smaller lineup. But this time, Indiana handled it with ease with that inside play, especially led by Trace Jackson Davis. What a phenomenal season this young man is having.
Well, he had probably his poorest performance of the year at Rutgers because if you remember, he scored just 4 points. I think he had 6 rebounds in that ball game. But in the second half, Archie kind of took him out of the picture, and he didn't play, but maybe just a few minutes in the second half, maybe 3 or 4 minutes in the second half of that ball game. So from that perspective alone, him bouncing back in this contest against Nebraska was critical, and he certainly did that with a double-double. I think that's his 6th of the year. He had 18 points and 13 rebounds. He also had 4 assists in this ball game without a turnover. Was a plus 12. I think just under. I think he and Joey Brunk were the 2 best performers, at least from plus-minus standpoint in this ball game. Those 2 guys did a terrific job, and Trace did just like we said. He was fantastic. But there were so many guys that contributed in this game, And how about the outside jump shooting, or at least the outside shots that fell for some of the bigs in this contest? Deron Davis comes in the ball game and knocks down 2 jump shots, which we almost never see Deron Davis take anything outside of a rim shot. And Deron Davis, who has played very few minutes this year and only played a little over 5:41 in this ball game, he knocks down both of the shots that he takes, and both of them were jump shots, and one was from about 18 feet away. Joey Brunk had an outside jump shot, which he rarely takes. He knocked it down. Armand Franklin, who's been struggling big time from three-point range, he hit 2 of 5. Jerome Hunter, who has not shot very well at all throughout the entire season, and a guy we keep thinking is going to have a breakout ball game, may have had that against Nebraska. He hit, out of 3 tries, he hit 2 3-pointers in the first half of this ball game when Indiana needed those shots to be made. And so we had all kinds of different people step up and knock down outside jump shots, which has been a rarity for this team all year long. And 51% shooting in this ball game, the best shooting that we've seen from Indiana since the Florida State ball game way back when. That was early December. So we've gone 10 games now without this team shooting 50%, and obviously this was the first time that it happened since the Florida State game.
Yeah, Don, you mentioned the Rutgers game before. It was just a poor shooting game for Indiana. Even they're obviously not been a great shooting team from the perimeter this year, and it looks like they're trying to move things in a little bit and couldn't get that done against Rutgers, but against Nebraska, those shots started falling. And if they can get that offense moving like that and get those outside shots falling, this is going to be a very dangerous team in the Big Ten.
Well, that's the big if. There's no question this team has not consistently shot it well since, like I said, back in November. That's when they were shooting their best basketball against some lesser teams. Once they got playing teams that were in their same caliber, in their same ballpark of talent and size and all those kinds of things, it's been a much tougher road. But Indiana did come up with a great performance. To shoot like that on the road, really, really important. And if you can bring that back home and continue that, especially with the schedule that Indiana's got coming up this week with Michigan State and Maryland, it will be critical. And, of course, if they can win 2 games this week, they're going to put themselves right back in the hunt for the Big Ten championship.
Yeah, and that's something that a lot of people probably didn't think was possible just a couple of weeks ago. But with the play of Indiana, in addition to the unbelievable the play of the Big Ten, how it's continued to be just a mixing bowl. But Indiana has an opportunity now. They've got 2 games at home coming up, Don, and you get that confidence coming off of a road win, and you bring that home, and couldn't come at a better time with the Spartans coming up next.
Well, no doubt. I mean, Michigan State's certainly proven beatable this year. They've lost 4 games. They are 6-1 in the Big Ten, but they are 1 and they've lost the only road game that they played 2 road games and they've lost 1 of those. So there's no doubt Michigan State is beatable, but they've got one of the best players in the country in Cassius Winston. I think this kid is special, and he has been special for all 4 years he's been at Michigan State. But the last 3, he's been spectacular, as everyone knows. But they've got plenty of talent around him. They are not the best shooting team that we've seen out of Michigan State in a long time, but they still play hard. They still rebound like crazy, and they're still one of the toughest teams that you're going to see when they come to your building. And, of course, Indiana beat them twice last year with a team that certainly didn't perform up to anyone's expectations throughout much of the year, and yet they were able to knock off Michigan State right in the middle of that slump that they had last year, which was a 12 losses and 13 ball game scenario. So to do that, I think this team, this Indiana ball club, will go in this year with as much confidence as they've had playing a Michigan State ball club in some time.
Absolutely, and this is a team that actually has a chance to do something with this as far as getting up at the top of the conference play. A lot of teams that we thought were going to be up the top, not like Ohio State, for example, they're at the bottom right now. So this, even though we knew this was kind of a crazy season, it continues to just be baffling as to watch. Now you've got Rutgers up at the top. So what an upside-down world we're living in right now.
Well, not just Rutgers, Illinois too.
Yeah,
Illinois is 5-2.
Yeah.
I mean, two teams that were bottom feeders a year ago now are at the top of the league standings with Michigan State, and you've got a conglomerate of teams. Indiana, Maryland, Iowa, and Wisconsin are all 4-3 behind those two teams, Michigan or Rutgers and Illinois. And then after that, you've got Minnesota, who's 4-4, Penn State's 3-4, Purdue's 3-4, Michigan's 2-4, Ohio State's 2-5. So that it just tells you what a topsy-turvy Big Ten this has been, how it's going to probably continue. Hopefully nobody breaks out. Michigan State looks to be the one team right now that could do that if they get hot here, but Indiana's got a chance to cool them very quickly here on Thursday night. And then Indiana takes on a Maryland team that has already beaten Indiana at their place, and looks to be one of those ball clubs that if they get hot, they could very much be in the hunt for the Big Ten championship as well. So it's going to be a really important week for this IU basketball team.
Yeah, and, Trace Jackson Davis having the game he had against Nebraska was big because his stats, if you'd looked at them on the road versus at home, were markedly different. His points production was more than half. His rebounds were half. Everything was cut in half. So having that game like that on the road has to be great for the confidence level of that freshman.
Well, there's no doubt about that. And if you look at most freshmen, they have that same adjustment. Everybody seems to have, as a freshman, that adjustment when playing away from home. You've got to find a way to generate your own energy. You've got to find a way to play some of your best basketball despite the environment that you're in. And that's what all freshmen do. They're all dealing with that same issue. The fact that Trace broke out of it on the road, I think certainly would give him some confidence going into this ball game, or to the games this week, and to every ball game from this point forward. But again, it's a learning experience. You go up against different players, different styles of play. All of those things come into it as far as freshmen are concerned. And it also factors in on the veterans as well, because those guys are going up against new faces, guys that they haven't played against before, different styles of play. Obviously, Nebraska plays differently than they did a year ago. Rutgers is playing, without question, differently than they did a year ago because their defense has been so terrific this year. So you're going up against teams that have different makeup each year, and even if they've got veterans on their ball clubs, and without question, it's an adjustment for everybody. But Trace Jackson Davis certainly made it this past week without question. After playing one of his poorest games, he plays one of his best of the season.
Absolutely, and we're looking forward to seeing what he and the rest of the team can do at home against the Spartans this Thursday, Don.
Yep, it's going to be a really important ball game in the sense of what you're going to see Indiana and see what they can accomplish in this contest. I do think that Indiana has a great chance to pull off the not necessarily a surprise in this league, but it would be a surprise to a lot of people that Indiana could beat Michigan State 3 straight times, 2 last year, and then start the year this year with another victory. So it would be terrific.
It would be amazing, but not shocking anymore after how this Big Ten season has gone so far.
No, not at all.
Don, thank you so much. We appreciate you immensely as always, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, Jim.
You bet. Have a great day. There's the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer, brought to you, of course, by Jeremy Temple Law Office of Bloomington, located right on the square, 123 South College Avenue on Kirkwood, right there on the southwest corner, 812-336-7229. Personal injury, criminal, business, whatever you need, Jeremy Temple Law Office has got you taken care of. Hey, we've got a lot more coming up on Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary. We're back with more right after this.
Yeah, let the good time roll. I don't care if you're young or old. Go out, let the good time roll.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs, Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dawkins.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
And our bench was key in the first half, huge. And then in the second half, I thought our big guys did a great job of commanding the ball. We were able to play inside out for a good portion. And played as well as we probably have offensively on the road in a while. But can't put a price on a game in this league if you're able to win it away from home. And we're thankful. And we'll go home and get ready for the next one.
There's Coach Archie Miller talking about his Hoosiers getting a big win on the road, and it was a big win, Todd. It's not because of the name of who they beat. It's just the fact that there's only been 7 road wins in the Big Ten this year, and to have one that under your belt is just very important, especially when you've let a couple get away.
Yeah, and, you've got to look at it. I hate to do this. It's not in my nature, but it's just kind of the way you've got to do it nowadays, and you've got to look at it as the number of wins that you've got to have. And if Indiana can finish above 500 in the Big Ten, which would mean, not losing any home games and winning, a couple on the road or one on the road, they put themselves in that position. Now they've just got to defend home court. And like I keep repeating, the way the schedule is set up, I mean, they're going to be able to get hyper-focused week by week on winning, at home or on the road, because that's the way it's set up. They've got 2 home games this week and then 2 road games next week and then 2 home games and then 2 road games and blah, 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 on and on. It just goes that way throughout the season with one little, one game in between that's not a double in a row. So this is just a good opportunity. It really is. I mean, it's great that they got that. If they'd have gone 0-2 on the road, at Rutgers, at Nebraska, I don't know if they would have been able to dig their way out of this one, but I really like the fact they got one of those on the road. Now coming back home, this is you give it all away if you come back home and lose this one to Michigan State.
Yeah, Trace Jackson-Davis laid an absolute egg at Rutgers on the road, but then wow, what phenomenal play he had at Nebraska.
You're muted. I can't hear you.
Yeah, Trace Jackson Davis laid an absolute egg against Rutgers on the road, but comes back with a great performance against Nebraska. Let's hear what he had to say.
Feels great. Just glad that we finally got one. They got up on us early. We kind of weathered the storm. That we punched them in the mouth a little bit, and they came right back. But I'm glad we found a way at the end to get it done.
Like Mike Tyson said, everybody's got a plan till you get punched in the mouth, baby.
and it's true though. I mean, it is. It's hard to go win a game on the road. How many times are you going to go win on the road when you dig a hole and you're down 10 in the first half? And it's not very many is the answer to that. And
that is never in the plan.
It's not.
That is never, ever, ever in the plan.
And the real hard part in that situation, a good example, a good analogy of that would be Tennessee Titans yesterday. And when Indiana is down 10, it's very difficult to stick to your game plan and continue, grinding it out and throwing it in the post and playing possession by possession. Yesterday when the Tennessee Titans, their game plan obviously is to run the ball and stick Derrick Henry right down their throat and as much as you possibly can. And once they fell behind at all, they had a possession when they barely fell behind by one touchdown where they didn't even run the ball. They threw it 3 times in a row. And that's definitely not them. They got away from their process. They got away from their game plan. And that's it. When you get on the road and things go bad, that's when you really have to have somebody step up and go, hey, look, you know what? It's one possession at a time, one play at a time. And for basketball, on the road, that's extremely important. And you have to give Indiana credit for that. It sucked they dug the hole. That was the crappy part. But the fact that they were able to come back from it without doing anything outrageous. They didn't make, 15 3-pointers, which is something we don't think they're capable of doing very often. They made 8 threes out of 26. It's not even a great percentage. It's not a good percentage at all. It just is. You've got to be able to make some. I've been saying this all year long as well. Is you have a game where you make 2 for whatever from the 3-point line. I don't care if it's 2 for 5, 2 for 4. You can't win. You've got to be able to make more 3-pointers than that. And if they can get to the point where they're making 7 to 10 3-pointers a game, I think they'll put themselves in a good place.
Ryan up in Michigan says, I like 3-1 over the next 4 and predict IU by 9 over Michigan State. I will make sure to stick it to my MSU friends. Tim texts in and says, the next 2 games are nationally televised. Does that get the players up a little more for the game?
I think the Michigan State game is a Fox Sports game. It's on Fox Sports, half the time. It's
who's doing that game, I wonder.
Yeah, I don't know that. I don't know that one. But the CBS game I bet Clark Kellogg will be doing the CBS game on Sunday. That'll be a fun one. If they get him in here to do that. And he's been doing some of the weekend CBS games, so hopefully he'll be doing that one. My guess is going to be for that game on Thursday night, probably Jimmy Jackson and Gus Johnson would probably be my guess. It's the bigger game. It's the second game of the night. So answer to his question,
matchup.
Answer to his question, do you get up for it a little bit more? I'll just put it this way. We knew when we were playing on CBS. We knew when we were playing, the marquee game of the day. You know it as a player.
You know it. Those 8 threes made were the most they made since they made 9 against Troy. That game's been so long ago, I forgot that they even played Troy.
Yeah, I was almost going to look and see. Was that this season?
I was like, was that in Rome?
Yeah, that was on November 16th. So solid 2 months ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. But the focus is to just get better each day. For teams that you see in November, just because you see some teams that are playing great and others aren't, you want to be playing well at the end of January. And if what we're seeing right now is this team clicking and not just a mirage, this is perfect timing. Come right along. You improve as the season goes on. Now as you get into January and play really starts to pick up. If you're going to start to improve, now's the time to do it.
Yeah, it is. And there have been some, besides getting the wins, okay, so beating Ohio State, there were some really good things that happened defensively in that Ohio State game. I mean, I think we heard Coach Miller talk about it after the game, but I think it was pretty obvious. Like, that was the best. That was a lot of improvement for Indiana defensively. And, you look at the Nebraska game on the road, there was a lot of good things offensively that happened. I mean, getting the ball inside. I think 3 games in a row we have seen a Justin Smith that, if he continues to build on what he's been doing the last 3 games, which it looks like has a major emphasis on getting the ball to the rim and going to the basket, he's a different player. He's a difference maker. He's an NBA type player if that's where he focuses his game. And, that's a different Justin Smith than we had, prior to 3 games ago. So if some of this is starting to click, some of these things are starting to fall into place, you're right. I mean, they're doing it in the right fashion. They've been through some struggles. They continually get better. And then if you can go into February playing great, you do that for a month and you're sitting in a pretty good spot in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, because you look at a team like Ohio State, who is just digging themselves a hole. They're going to have trouble making the tournament now.
They really are.
Because it's not just the record. They got to get this stuff out of whatever's in their heads going on. And not that I care if they make it or not. I'm just pointing out. You can see that. I mean, this is what happened to Indiana last year. How quickly things can turn and go awry. This is a team we thought was going to fight for a Big Ten championship. I don't know that they make the damn tournament now.
Yeah, no, you're exactly right. I mean, they're sitting at 2-5 and 12-6 overall right now. And this is a team that was, I think, 10-1 or 11-1 at one point in time. And, they are a team that is really, really, I said this after the game on the show, on the after the game show that we did Saturday night. There's something going on internally with Ohio State that we don't know about. And those suspensions that were a week ago, for them, where they suspended 2 players for 1 game, that's weird. Like, you don't do that unless there's some stuff going on within the team that you're trying to fix without it becoming a big deal. And obviously, I think their play has suffered from it. I mean, they don't have a true identity anymore. Caleb Wesson looks like he's getting more and more frustrated by the game. And Andre Wesson and Caleb Wesson, I mean, if it weren't for those 2 guys right now, I mean, that team is really struggling. And they've got, like you said, I don't really care whether they make the tournament or not, but it's a great example of, all the things your team goes through in a year. A month and a half ago, they were on top of the world. And, 45 days later, that team is one we're talking about being on the bubble and has a chance of not making the tournament. So many different things can happen. When you take 15 players between the age of 18 and 23 years old, and you try to meld them all together and get them to have a cohesive bond and play together, you can get some bad apples in there.
Absolutely. And you look at a team like that, just like Indiana last year, I say that they may not make the tournament. They probably will make the tournament. It's not going to take much. They would have to stay on this trajectory, a downward spiral they're on, to miss the tournament. I expect that they get things turned around enough because they did enough early on. It's like Indiana last year. Indiana, all they had to do was beat Ohio State in the Big Ten tournament or a win here, and they couldn't get it done. I think it's going to come down to that same thing for Ohio State this year.
Well, and yeah, but I mean, they got a really tough stretch coming up. I mean, they've got to go this weekend. They've got to go to Northwestern. Okay, that's a game on paper you would assume they should win, except for Ohio State doesn't shoot the ball that well from the outside, and Northwestern, we saw, can make it very difficult on teams, and it's going to be at Northwestern's arena. It wouldn't shock me if Northwestern won that game. But then after that, look at the stretch they've got. They've got Indiana coming there, which hopefully Indiana will be hot and kind of on a roll, and then they go to Michigan, to Wisconsin. I mean, you're talking about a month from now or just 3 weeks from now, that team could have 4 more losses. They have 4 more losses. They're not making the tournament.
Yeah, Indiana's a team. Indiana can go 500. You talk about splitting series. Ohio State can't do that. They're under the gun. They're backwards.
They've got
now.
Bad losses already. They got a bad loss at home to Wisconsin. They've already been beaten by West Virginia. Which West Virginia is good. I get that, but it was a neutral court. It wasn't at West Virginia. It's not a road game. I mean, They've got, hey, we could turn they've got a great coach, and they've got some really good older veteran players. They could turn the whole thing around. They really could. Our point in discussing this is not to talk about Ohio State. It's to talk about what you said. What can happen to a team throughout a season and all the different things that can go wrong. And for Ohio State, they've all kind of mounted up and they've all gone wrong at the same time. And Indiana has kind of fought through that. They've had some issues here and there with guys not playing well and not being able to figure out a lineup and, not making your focus, getting the ball in the post and all those things. And right now, we can't say that. I mean, right now you can tell they're playing through the post. You can look at the numbers. The numbers don't lie.
And a team that has done the best job of playing through stuff is Michigan State. Yeah. Now, they had started off the season with all these expectations. They lose right off the bat. They get knocked off their perch. Looks like they were kind of lost for a couple weeks. There were some issues with going on, personal issues with some of the players. But now they're sitting at the top of the Big Ten. They've got one loss, and they seem to be heading in their right direction. So this is you're not exactly catching Michigan State at a bad time. In their world, it's not a bad time.
Yeah, I mean, and that one loss they had was at Purdue. It was on the road, and Purdue, I don't think it's any secret to anyone across the world. Carson Edwards was kind of the anomaly in Purdue's whole system. Otherwise, Purdue's whole game plan for the last 30 years has been built around defense, and they're a good defensive team no matter what. And Michigan State went in there, and Michigan made them look silly because their defense was that good that day. And they've got a couple of really, really good defensive players on Purdue's team. They made it almost impossible for Michigan State to score in that game, and Cassius Winston shot the ball bad. And if that happens, Michigan State's going to struggle. But you're right. They bounced right back from that, and they have, they've dealt with all kinds of stuff throughout the year, personal tragedy and all kinds of things. I really think one of the biggest issues they had to do to start the year out was figure out how to play without the two guys I think they expected to be able to play. The transfer from Marquette, Hauser, and then Langston. Is that his name, Langston? Sounds right.
Langford,
yeah.
Josh Langford.
Not having him, I mean, that's two huge scorers that they expected to have for this season. So once they found out in November they weren't going to have those guys anymore, they have to kind of adjust their whole game plan, and different guys have to step up and do stuff. They're feeling their way through it right now, and you're right. Indiana's not catching them on the downside right now. They're catching them feeling pretty good about themselves.
But fortunately for Indiana's feeling pretty good about itself.
Sure, no
doubt. Ironically, these two teams played last year for the first time, and Indiana was not feeling good about itself. Michigan State was riding high as they are right now. Indiana was not, and they go up there and shocked all of us with that big win. Now, Michigan State, I'm sure they didn't overlook Indiana. You don't do that in this league. Tom Izzo's not going to do that. But they're certainly not overlooking Indiana on the road this Thursday.
Yeah, and for sure they're not. And you know what? They've got a little bit of an axe to grind with Indiana. I mean, Indiana
swept them last year.
Was a big deal. And but last year something flukish did happen. I can't remember what it was, but Justin Smith went
hit 3-point shots.
That's didn't he make like 5 3-pointers or something crazy up there last year?
Don't say that out loud.
But I mean, it was flukish, and right now that's when you feel good about your team, is when you can put a game plan together and go execute it and win, and that's where they're at right now. They don't have to do something freakish to be able to go to beat Michigan State this week Thursday night in Assembly Hall. I mean, if they play well and execute their game plan, they'll be right there. This is the difficult part. This is where it's difficult, more difficult as a fan than it was as a player, because as a player, you can be in a game and you can have an 8-point lead and you can feel like you have the game totally under control. But as a fan, we want them to be up by – if they're not up by 20, we feel like, oh, my gosh, every mistake is a bad play and all these things are going on. And you don't have any control of it as a fan. And so we want them to be ahead from the beginning and ahead by more at halftime and ahead by more with 10 minutes to go and win by 20. And, that it just doesn't really work out that way. I mean, this is the game they've got to plan on hanging around and being there. If they're down by 6 at halftime, that's no big deal. It really isn't. And they've just got to hang around there and be in a position to be, within 6 points one way or another with 8 minutes to go in the game. And if they're at that point, they have a chance to win.
Absolutely. Man, we got a ton to talk about today, a ton more. We are looking forward to the matchups of Indiana and Michigan State.
Yeah.
Indiana has, to me, they're much better. They're better off down low and the Michigan State is much better off in the backcourt. So I think that's going to be a tale of Indiana's front court versus Michigan State, which I think they have the advantage there, versus Michigan State's backcourt, which I think has the advantage over Indiana.
But it'll be fun to look throughout the week. It'll be fun to look at Cassius Winston, who I think is probably, the best guard.
Who's going to guard him, Finney?
That's what I was going to say for Indiana. I mean, Indiana's strength, their best defender is their point guard defender. So it'll be a good matchup. It'll be one you'll really have to watch Rob Finney staying out of foul trouble. If Rob's going to have to be cognizant of that in this game.
Yep. We got tons more coming up. Mike Schumann's going to join us as well, as we got plenty more to talk about. Indiana takes on Michigan State this week. So stay tuned. We're back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary. Back right after this.
And you know that you're the only one to say.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
You're on the line with Jamal Meeks, former Indiana Hoosier, number 23, 1992. And I'm on the beat with Jim Coyle.
It's a great feeling to get it out on the road with your guys, and I'm happy we can get this one done. And it's a great feeling getting on the plane, with a W.
Winning is always a great feeling. There's Joey Brunk talking about getting that very feeling in Lincoln, Nebraska over a weekend. Welcome back. Indiana Sports Beat with Coy O'Leary coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this Monday, January 20th. Woo! Cold out there, man.
Super cold.
We've been so fortunate and talking about. I mean, it was like a week ago. You're talking about golf weather. Well, ain't no golf weather out there today.
Nope. Yesterday and today are pretty brutal, but it warms up back up again. I mean, we're back up in the 40s.
This is almost too cold for Top Golf.
Definitely. It's too cold to even think about having a golf club in your hands.
Like I didn't realize how
nasty.
cold it was. I yesterday went out to watch one of the NFL games, and I'm like, whoa. It just
it not only was the wind chill yesterday made it even way colder than what it was. It was so windy, it just was brutal.
Yeah, no fun. Hey, hit us up on the text line if you like, 812-269-6367. You know, we got to get a sponsor for that text line. We say it so freaking much. Somebody's missing out. So if you got a business out there, you want to sponsor, we got plenty of locations for you to put you sponsorship wise here on Indiana Sports Beat. But man, that text line, that's one of them. I'm gonna have to work on that. But 812-269-6367. Hit us up, 812-269-6367. Thoughts, comments, quotes, questions, whatever you like. Just like Tim did, said, can't wait for February 27th to play in Mackey Arena. Second loudest arena to Assembly Hall.
He's just stoking me, trying to get me to say something.
Oh, trust me, I know. That's why I read it.
I'm not biting, Tim. You're right. How about that? Maybe that'll get you to stop saying it.
Yeah, a little bit chilly. Now it's basketball time. Football's over. College football's over. You got the NFL left. But even the NFL's almost over.
Yeah, I mean, the Super Bowl's just like a big event. It's fun to watch the game and all that, but it's just an event. So, I mean, football, for the most part, is over. And
it's time
it's true
for basketball.
Now they start – now you just get that different feeling, especially if the weather stays up in the 40s the way it is. Now you just get that different feeling when you're watching a basketball game on the weekend and they play that Masters commercial and you get that music and then they start to get –
kids go out at halftime and they shoot in the driveway.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every time.
You start to get that NCAA commercials, the ads and stuff for the commercials, and you start to hear that music. It's just – that's my comfort zone. We're coming into my season.
Yeah, looking forward to it, man. And this season has been, we've talked about it so much, but how crazy this season has been with the parity. I mean, we saw a Louisville team go down to Duke and win down there. Not that that's never happened, but, you know, once you get into this part of the season, that's a little surprising to see Duke lose at home like that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, based on past history, it's insanely surprising. But, you know, with this season, it is. It's nutso, and you've just got so many different teams. I think the biggest issue now, or not an issue, but the biggest reasoning for all of this is just the simple fact that I don't want to say there's not one team that stands out above the rest of them. It's Gonzaga kind of almost sits in that Clemson situation, although Gonzaga played a tough schedule before conference play started, but Gonzaga is the best team in the country. I mean, they're not sitting there because they play in a crap conference. Now, they're not going to be tested that many times. You know, you heard there was a bunch of talk about how BYU, I heard Dick Vitale making a big deal about how BYU was going to be a big test going into Gonzaga this last weekend, and they win by 20-plus points. I mean, that's not a test. I mean, they're not going to get tested till the NCAA tournament, and they're going to have a number one seed, so that sets them apart. But you look at everybody else. I was going through it. Just listen to this. This was kind of a crazy stat to think about. These are, I'm going to go down in order from 1 to 25, and I'll do it quickly, but you'll understand what I'm saying with this. These are teams in the top 25 and what they did in the last week. So Gonzaga and Baylor are 1 and 2. They both won their games, although Baylor had to have a big comeback win at Oklahoma State this weekend. But Duke lost, Auburn lost twice, Butler lost twice. San Diego State had to come back and win there, but they won both of their games. Oregon lost. Florida State, who Indiana beat, is probably going to be up around 5th in the country when it comes out later today. Louisville lost. West Virginia lost. Dayton hit a three-pointer at the end to come back and win, so they almost lost. Villanova lost. Wichita State lost. Maryland lost. Seton Hall lost. Michigan lost. Colorado lost. Ohio State lost. Memphis lost. Texas Tech did not lose. Illinois and Creighton. That's how many teams in the
there
top
was like
25.
5 teams, it sounded like, that did not
that
lose.
didn't lose. That's how there was. I think there was 18 teams in the top 25, or no, 17 teams in the top 25 that didn't lose a game this week. It's insane.
Yeah, well, the only reason we saw it right off the bat with the number one team's rotation until it got to Gonzaga, and the only reason that stopped is because it's Gonzaga and they don't play anybody.
Right.
But yeah, it's. I can't imagine what the tournament's going to be like if the season is like how the tournament normally is.
This is going to be one of those years when truly, right now they're talking about between 9 and 12 teams making the NCAA tournament from the Big Ten. And I think as things shake out, I think it'll settle in probably right around 10. And
that would be a record.
The crazy part is going to be the seeding. That's what's going to be so very, very difficult at the end. When you've got all these teams in the Big Ten, think of how many teams in the Big Ten are going to have between 9 and 11 losses. It's going to be the majority of them. And they're all going to have beat each other on their own home courts. And it's just going to be a nightmare when you try to seed.
Well, that's when they start using those matrices, the strength of schedule and the net rankings and all that stuff.
Out of all the stuff you've seen so far, I mean, Indiana has been – it'll change this week, but in the mock drafts, Indiana's been like a 9 seed. And then you've had some teams that are just like Indiana, like in Illinois, that have been as high as a 6 seed. And you look at some of the Rutgers is a team they've got up there as a 6 seed and a 7 seed. And you're like, that's going to be so impossible to do towards the end of the year. It's going to be, they're all going to be lumped together and they're just going to have to place them based on proximity.
I think Indiana ends up getting in as a 6 seed.
Yeah, I'm totally in agreement with you. I think that's probably right on the money.
Yeah, I think that's where they will end up.
Which puts them in a what, 6-11? No, 6-11 game. So if they'll play an 11 seed in the first game.
And I'm not saying they can't be higher than that. They could catch fire if something happens and their shooting starts being just somewhat consistent. If they're somewhat consistent from outside shooting, they're going to win more games than they lose.
If Indiana, this 4-game stretch right now, Michigan State at home, Maryland at home, at Penn State, at Ohio State. If Indiana wins 3 out of those 4, they're all of a sudden looking at the possibility of a 3 or 4 seed. If they continue that on throughout the season, obviously. But this is a big 4-game stretch. Obviously, I'm kind of including making sure one of those 3 victories is against Michigan State.
Now, I found this one hard to believe. Joker texted and said, neither Gonzaga nor Kentucky are rated in the RPI top 25. How's Gonzaga not in the top 25? I mean, I know they play a weak schedule, but they have at least played some teams.
Yeah, they don't play that weak of a schedule, though. I mean, they've played Oregon. They've played Michigan.
Well, that's what I'm saying. They don't play that weak of a schedule to not be in the top 25.
They've already beat 3 ranked teams.
No, I get that. That's why I'm shocked that they would not be in the RPI's top 25. That's just a little shocking.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy. I mean, and believe me, that BYU team that they just beat. Now, granted, I'm telling you, Gonzaga to me, I think is that good. They have all the pieces. They're coached well. They've got great players. They've got big guys. They got guys that can shoot it. They've got everything you want when you're putting a team together. But that BYU team they just beat, BYU will be in the tournament, in my opinion. I think BYU is a good team that, they're going to be there. I truly believe BYU will be in the NCAA. They're 14-6 overall. Pretty sure they were ranked at one point in time. But I mean, that's a good team, and they dismantled them.
A lot of good teams out there, and that's the thing. I think that coaches saw. Oh, I know that they have. They've seen that this one and done thing wasn't the recipe. It looks good. It's flashy. It can win you some games. It gets you some recognition. Get you some draft guys get drafted and all that. But it's not winning national championships, and I think people saw that. And then there you got the guys that weren't getting those players anyway, so they didn't have a choice but to recruit and try to get older and stay older. And I think you see a lot of teams like that now that don't have these one and done guys, and they're just have gotten older and are playing better as teams. And man, does that go down a long list?
Yeah, I mean, part of the Part of the luster, part of why we love college basketball is kind of watching these kids come in, watching them grow, especially that's why we love kids that are from the state of Indiana, because you've kind of watched them grow up, and whole communities will follow certain players when they're from an area. And, the whole southern half of the state claims Romeo Langford. I mean, it's not just that New Albany area. I mean, the whole southern half of the state claims Romeo, which is awesome. I'm saying that as a positive, not a negative, but when you can watch a player develop, Yogi Ferrell, Victor Oladipo, those two guys are, in the modern Indiana basketball era, those two guys are just, I mean, they're what Indiana was made all about. Fans got to watch them get better. No one in the world would have told you Victor Oladipo was an NBA All-Star when he came in as a freshman.
No, he wasn't.
No
close.
one in the world would have told you that Yogi Ferrell was going to turn into the player he turned into in his fourth year at Indiana. I mean, they would have told you he was going to be good, but look at the difference between how those two guys are looked at. And I'm not picking on him. He had a different type of game. But look at the way those two guys' careers are looked at versus Romeo Langford and Eric Gordon. Those two guys, I mean, yeah, everyone from Indiana knows Eric Gordon went to Indiana and is from Indianapolis and North Central and all that. But you go to somebody from Kentucky, or you go to someone from Tennessee and you ask where Eric Gordon's from, they're not 100% sure.
He didn't stay long enough.
They could probably. That's what I mean. I mean, we didn't get to watch him develop.
Yep.
Now, the difference between both of those two guys, and especially Eric Gordon, they had a game that was suited for the NBA, not suited for college basketball.
Dude can shoot.
It's a totally different. Look, they're both basketball. That I get, but they're so much different. It's the NFL and college football are so much different, but college basketball and the NBA are way different in so many different ways. They're the most different when it comes from dealing with the same sport, but one level to another. It's a bigger jump. This is a crazy thing to say, but I truly believe it. It's a bigger jump from college basketball to the NBA than it is from high school basketball to Division I basketball. And I really believe that. It's just a totally different game. And some players have a game that's better suited for college basketball, and some have a better game that's suited for NBA basketball. There are a ton of really, really good college basketball players that may never play in the NBA. I mean, Cassius Winston's a decent example. Cassius Winston, if he could play for 25 years in college basketball, for 25 years, he's probably always going to be one of the best guards in the country. In the NBA, he'll probably get a chance to play, but he isn't going to be it's just not the same. He's not going to be the star and be able to run the team the way he does and leads in college basketball.
Yeah, and sometimes having a star on your team doesn't help as much as you think. Remember Sean East? Sean East played for New Albany when Romeo was there.
Yeah.
And he had a great, career there. He was an all-star, but didn't get any offers. I mean, didn't get any that he liked. He wanted to play Division I, and he ended up finally at Massachusetts, and I think he's doing well there. But
I've always thought he was a player that if he had been on another team, and this is nothing against Romeo, but if he had been on another team, he would have had plenty of offers to go play somewhere.
Which is odd because he got saw so much. And actually it's leading to the point that I'm getting ready to make. There's another kid like that now down there in southern Indiana at Silver Creek that's playing with Trey Kaufman, who's the big 6'8" kid, at Cooper Jacoby, who's at guard. Man, that dude just lights it up. And you haven't heard a lot about him before this season.
Well, I lived this life. I played with a 7-foot guy. I lived this life. I know what it's like to be that second guy on the team. I completely understand it.
And even though, I mean, when I've seen him, and I don't mean this is not a knock on Kaufman, but when I've seen them play, Jacoby's had the better games. And that doesn't mean that he's the better player.
Here's the thing.
Different position. It's so many different things. But
in the state tournament, we played 2 games the same day in the state tournament. I led us in scoring both games. I scored more than Eric Montross did. Without any, I mean, I scored more than anybody else did that day. The difference is, if you ask me who's the most valuable player on our team, it's still Eric. There's no doubt about it. I mean, I got to do a lot of the things I got to do because of Eric, because they had to double team him and because of different things. Like, even though I was the leading scorer and I played pretty well in those games, like, Eric was still the most valuable player and still the best. We don't get to do that. We don't win the state championship without Eric. I mean, the difference is I was able to play in front of a lot of good people and put up enough numbers that I got that chance and that opportunity that you're talking about. East last year. I mean, he should have gotten that opportunity. If he'd have been somewhere else, he would have gotten those opportunities.
Well, Silver Creek just beat Bloomington North, so Bloomington North has a good team. So and Silver Creek's 3A, so there's a good
There's a pretty good guy on Bloomington North's team. No, Bloomington South.
Bloomington North has a good team too, though.
Yeah.
No, they're both good. But hey, we got lots more to get to. Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier is going to join us next here on Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle Leary. We're coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We're back with that right after this. Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dockett.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Coyle Lee with you here on this Monday. It's January 20th, and it is cold out, though. But we got Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier. Mike, you going to warm it up a little bit? Maybe we don't have Mike. We don't have.
He'll get to us in a minute. It's cold, man. The lines are frozen.
Oh, I thought we had him.
We'll get him in a minute. That's
all right.
He's cold.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat, like I said, here on this Monday. Been a fun one already. Clark Kellogg, need to get Clark on. Clark's been on the show before too, so I need to reach out to him to see if he's doing it.
Is he doing the game Sunday?
I don't know. We have to see who's doing the games Thursday and Saturday. Have to look that up.
We can only hope it's Jimmy Jackson and Gus Johnson. Those are They are really, really good announcers. I can't believe I say that. My two of my favorite announcers are Jimmy Jackson and Clark Kellogg, both Ohio State guys, and we all know what I think of Ohio State. So they must be good.
You ever notice Ohio State gets all these guys in? You got Kirk Herbstreit and Joey Galloway on the college football, and then you got Kellogg and whoever you just said.
Jimmy Jackson,
which I like both those guys. Oh, they're two nice guys. The football side, not so much.
Herb Street is just, I mean, I really have to give him credit. He's done a great job over the years.
Oh, absolutely. He's
toning
it
down. He used to be such an Ohio State fanboy. It was ridiculous. But now he's really toned it down, and he's actually – he does a lot of research. You can tell he's knowledgeable, and he's got a lot of information. That's why I always love Clark. Clark just is –
It looks like we've got Mike with us now.
Gentlemen, how's it going?
Pretty good, brother. How you doing, man?
Trying to make things complicated here, aren't you?
Yeah, it's a different day. Well, we got producers traveling, so it makes life rough.
Figured you guys didn't know how to do anything.
That is factual. Bingo.
No idea what you're talking about. A big road win for Indiana. We've been talking about it for most of the day, Mike. Over the weekend, Indiana knocked off Nebraska, which not like they won a national championship, but getting a road win of the Big Ten this year has been a prized possession, and they have one now, especially I mentioned it's after letting that one slip away, especially at Wisconsin. Very, very important to get that win at Nebraska.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the big question, isn't it? Is how much stock do you want to put into this particular road win? I mean, obviously a tough as hell team to defend, but not a really great team in the overall scheme of things. And so I don't know what you guys have been talking about, but in my mind, I've been wrestling with the idea of, should you just expect to win a game like that, or should you be happy about it, or maybe all the above. I mean, bottom line is this team psychologically, more than anything, I think needed to get a win on the road just to know that they could go out and do it, because there's obviously a lot tougher ones down the stretch. But I don't think Nebraska's a team that, is going to boost the resume or anything like that. So it's a good win. It's not a great win. And now there's 13 games with absolutely no breaks whatsoever down the stretch.
Yeah, this is going to be brutal, Todd. I mean, we talked about this losing streak they got on last year, only because it's so recent, I guess. But with this schedule laid out the way it is, it's a toughest schedule in the country that they have left here. But at least they're playing better as they're going into it, as opposed to what we saw a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, no question. I mean, they have the goofy setup with the 2-game stretches of 2 home games and 2 away games, and just repeats itself almost the whole rest of the Big Ten season. But Nebraska, you make a good comment, Mike, in that do you get too excited about it, or maybe you do. Iowa, that's a team. Iowa is most likely going to be a pretty high seed in the NCAA tournament. I mean, they're going to make it. They didn't go into Nebraska and win. Purdue obviously didn't go in there and win. So it's one that it might not be a resume builder, but it surely would hurt your resume if you didn't win that game. And so, later in the year, I think we'll look at that as kind of a jump start as to when they got things going. The Rutgers game, I really thought they were going to have a chance to win that. I think yesterday, again, Rutgers proved how good defensively they are. They made Minnesota, they even made a Churu, look silly out there for a time. I don't think he only had 2 points at halftime. So Rutgers that's proving to be, a tough place to go in and go. But you're right. I mean, the rest of the road games, when you can look at the rest of the road games Indiana has and say maybe at Minnesota and at Illinois are the best opportunities that you have to win on the road, that's tough, because those are 2 teams that are very difficult. That probably at Minnesota is probably going to be their next real opportunity to expect to win a game on the road.
And we know how things generally go up there.
Yep. The barn is always cold. And I swear, I feel like they have these guys practice outside, because when you get up there, I feel like they open the doors to that place. And it's always freezing cold in there. Like I just, my last memory of playing in that gym, we lost by 50. So obviously I don't have a great memory of being there, but It's a tough one. All of them are going to be tough, but that one, if Indiana could steal that one and make it difficult for Minnesota to score, I think looking at Nebraska game and what I really took the most out of that was, yes, you said it. Nebraska's a tough team to defend and they can get things going, which they did for a little while. But over a 40-minute game, if you play your game and you impose your will, which is what I think Indiana did, and you do that for 40 minutes and stick to the process, at the end of the game, you're going to be ahead. And I really feel great. That's the super positive I take away from that game. Yeah, there's a ton of things to still clean up. There's a ton of things to improve and get better on. But if you look at the whole scheme of it, Nebraska is a difficult team, and they're going to go on their runs. And as long as you don't freak out and let that take you completely out of your game and your process, that's a game you can go in there and win. And it feels really good to be able to say they came out of there doing that.
And don't you feel like in game, I mean, I thought the first 5 minutes of that game, it felt like Nebraska was going to score 200 points. I mean,
Yep.
Indiana could just not stay in front of them defensively. And so, kind of an in-game adjustment that really stood out to me is it felt like Archie recognized that Al Durham was having trouble staying in front of those guys and went to more minutes for Armand Franklin, who I thought defensively played really well. And I think just as a team as a whole, however he got through to them to say, hey, guys, you are going to have to slow them down. You're not going to completely slow them down because they've got guys like Mack that are just incredibly talented. But I think they did enough to whereas at the end of the game, Nebraska had a lot of possessions, but they were still under a point per possession in the game, which is a pretty good defensive effort on the road.
Yeah, it is. And you look at what they're – I mean, I kept saying this to Jim as we were sitting there watching the game, but every single time Nebraska was able to drive the ball and be dribbling and get their foot inside the lane, something bad happened for Indiana. And I really felt like they did a better job. You're never going to keep – you're never going to keep a team like Nebraska from being able to get out of there at all. But you've got to limit how many times they're able to drive the ball into the lane. And I thought the second half was way better defensively from the standpoint of guys recognizing, okay, look, even if we've got to give up an outside shot or give up something, from 18 feet, I can't let them get into the lane. And once they did that, I thought they were much better off.
And the thing about Mike, Indiana, a team of dualities, inside, outside. They don't have a lot of outside presence. Inside, obviously, with Trace Jackson-Davis, Joey Brunk, and Justin Smith really elevating his game here lately, as Todd has pointed out, because he's kind of shortened his game, basically, taking better shots. This entire team has done that. They couldn't hit the shots against Rutgers, but against Nebraska, those shots started falling, and that makes this team a very difficult team to defend when you've got to worry about shots falling from different locations and with a team that has the inside presence like Indiana does.
Yeah, I mean, Joey Brunk being able to hit those 12, 15-foot jump shots, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but it really is. I mean, it spaces things out even – that little bit where they can do some little bit of high-low action, which they had some success with. Trace was able to step out and hit one from the free throw line. I think, Justin Smith, I think, is playing great right now, in my opinion, and he's doing it within himself. He hasn't abandoned the three. He hit a big one. I think he hit the one that put him up by their biggest margin. But at the same time, I think he's just all in all playing a smarter offensive game. He's taking much more of what the defense has given him. Obviously the challenge is going to be much more steep over the last 13 games where, the athletes that he has to try to get those shots against are going to be much more difficult. But I think for the most part, those three bigs that have been starting most of the season, they're finding ways to be impactful despite, having a lot of crowded space there in the paint.
And Todd, we've talked about this. It's not just those guys. It's this entire team finding their role within the roles. And Devontae Green of having to find his role in this offense, yet stay Devontae Green and what he brings to the table, yet making sure it is part of the offense of scheme.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at this team, here's why I've been so high on them, and here's why I will continue to be that way. Is think how difficult it would be if Indiana was a really good outside shooting team and we had to rely on them making shots to win every game, and we had to try to develop an inside game and get guys on the inside to be able to contribute. We've got the opposite, which is the best case scenario. We don't need to have a great outside shooting game. We need to be adequate. We just need to make, a reasonable number of shots from the outside in order to open things up on the inside in order for this team to be successful. What a great from a coaching perspective, from a fan's perspective, that's something that you can rely on a lot more often than being a team that has to rely on making 12 to 15 three-pointers every game in order to have a chance to win. And Devontae is the guy that can help them get to that point of being, maybe a little bit more than adequate. Devontae, we will still have games where Devontae is the best scoring option on the floor. It's going to happen. Indiana fans need it to happen. I'm not down on Devontae because he shoots 1 for 6 in this game. The 1 3-pointer he made was a big one. It was a kick out from the inside, which is exactly how we want him to get his shots. He played 14 minutes and he got 6 shots up. That's what I want. I want him to play 20, 23 minutes and get 10 shots up. That's what you want from Devontae. And if you can get that from him, he also had 4 big rebounds. We've talked about rebounding from that guard position is a big deal. And in 14 minutes, Devontae grabs 4 rebounds. So I think he's feeling his way into finding that role and perfecting that role that he's going to have. But we're still going to have games when everybody's going crazy because of a few crazy Devontae shots that go in. And that's what we want. That is Devontae. We don't want him to change his game, I don't think.
Yeah, he's midway through his senior year, so shame on us if we're expecting anything too much.
Exactly. We know he's going to be a little bit out of control. The awesome part is, back a few years ago, he was out of control along with the other 4 guys on the floor and the other 3 guys that were coming in from off the bench. Like, everybody was out of control. Right now, I feel like everybody's kind of in control except for Devontae, and you can deal with that. We can work with Devontae being a little bit crazy. We just got to be a little bit more strategic as to when he's got the ball. I've always lived by the rule and told him, like, you can't turn it over if you shoot it. And that's what we want Devontae to do. I want him to chuck up the ball every time he can see the basket.
Did you ever have any teammates like that, Todd, or was Coach Knight just so intolerant?
No
of that,
chance.
That...
Guy, here was the crazy part. This is how out of control it was. A guy who came in that way was Rob Foster. I don't even know if people will remember the name Rob Foster when he came into Indiana, but he was out of control. This dude, he would dribble down the court sometimes and almost fall forward on his forehead. He was going so fast. And that's kind of it was such a different look for us. Like, we never had anyone that way. Chris Reynolds was always so under control. Jamal from time to time, but even Jamal, he was so solid and thick. Like, he was just always kind of under control. And we just really didn't have anyone that got going so fast. Like, Coach would have just never allowed that. And that's why it shocked me when Rob Foster came in. And as I think it didn't last that experiment didn't last very
long. Thursday, Michigan State coming in, Mike. This is an opportunity for Indiana to really make a statement. If you can get a win over the team that's leading the conference, that says a lot about where you are right now, mentally and physically.
Yeah, and I guess, they should be going into that game with some degree of confidence, right? They swept them last year, which I think blew my mind, probably a lot of people's mind. The most amazing the most amazing thing about that 12-13 loss streak last year was that the one win in there was at East Lansing. That is just so difficult to even comprehend how that happened, but it did. And then right at the tail end of that streak, they picked up another win at home against Michigan State. So, what I think there's some philosophical things about the two programs. Archie likes to run transition offense. He likes to play pack line. I think there's some similarities that might breed some comfort when the game playing against those guys. The thing that's really stood out to me the last 3 times they've played Michigan State, Indiana has gotten 25, 20, and 15 offensive rebounds against Michigan State, who's just a phenomenal rebounding team themselves. So I don't know if Archie's finding something in the scheme where, they're taking advantage of Michigan State trying to get out in transition and attacking the glass, or exactly how they're doing that. Maybe they're just, maybe it's just motivation, or they know they got to hit the glass hard against those guys.
Well, and this team has been much, much better than last year's team was from a rebounding standpoint.
Those weren't even good Indiana rebounding teams. That was like Freddie McSwain and Morgan getting all those rebounds. So So I think that's going to be really interesting to watch is the battle on the boards.
Yeah, I've seen this team improve and getting offensive rebounds in a game against Michigan State, Todd, that's a very, very crucial element.
It is, but, it's been one of Indiana's strengths. And quite frankly, the guy who I think we consider Justin Smith one of the best offensive rebounders. And then also you look at Trace Jackson Davis, who's just a freshman. Those two guys on the offensive glass are a very difficult defense for even a team like Michigan State. You assume, or I'm just going to assume, that Tillman is going to guard Joey Brunk. So if that's the case, who guards Trace Jackson Davis? Who guards Justin Smith? I see us with the advantage from those two positions, and especially on the offensive boards. I mean, we're bigger and more physical. Justin Smith, there's not really another guy in the league that is Justin Smith's size and athletic ability playing that position that he plays, that 2, 3, 4 position or whatever, that hybrid, guard, wing player, forward player. And so he's almost always going to have the advantage in that offensive rebounding. So that's really where I think Indiana's going to have to kill him. And it's both of those guys' strengths. It's Justin Smith's strength. It's Trace Jackson Davis's strength. So, that I don't, you're not going to look at Indiana saying they have the advantage in this game, but it's definitely a game that it's not going to surprise me if they hang right in there and win the rebounding battle.
And does that make you worry, Todd, that, with Indiana being so big and Michigan State liking to push going the other way off misses that, the IU might be a little bit slow in this game trying to get back?
This is a weird Michigan State team because when they push the ball, like I'll just say it this way, Aaron Henry, Gabe Brown, those two guys are not like slashing wing type players. They're not scaring me on the break. Cassius Winston, I want the ball out of his hands as fast as possible. So if he's throwing the ball up to Aaron Henry or Gabe Brown or those guys, I want that to happen. I would much rather them have the ball than Cassius Winston. And so, on the break, I do think they push it, but they're almost more of a secondary break kind of team where Cassius Winston is not, I don't think anyone's going to say he's one of the faster players in the country, but I think everybody will tell you he's probably the best guy with the ball in his hands and the most creative and just the most crafty player there is in college basketball. So they don't scare me as much as they usually do in their break. I think their secondary break probably scares me the most. And Indiana getting back, and I think they'll get back and stop the transition. It'll be getting themselves set and getting back out and recovering on guys like Gabe Brown and Aaron Henry, and not allowing them to drive it in the lane. I think it's going to be a consistent story game in and game out for Indiana to keep players out of the lane driving the basketball in. And that secondary break is the best time to drive that ball into the lane because you kind of get everybody back on their heels and they almost settle and take a deep breath. And then if you take that first dribble and ram it down their throat in the lane, that's what we want Indiana to do. That's what we want Justin Smith to do, and Al Durham. So if you could keep that part of it, this team just doesn't scare me in Michigan State. Cassius Winston, if he controls the game, if he controls Indiana's pace and all of that, Michigan State's going to win. That's the fact of them. They're going to win every game he's capable of doing that in.
And one of the things we've talked about, and Alan from Birdseye texts in about Rob Finney, how that he thought Alan thought he looked a little out of sorts Saturday, but he's definitely getting back to his game and getting back in sync. What are your thoughts on that, Todd Leary? He's definitely, and that is a crucial pin for this offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think Rob gained some confidence back in the Ohio State game. I think we've talked all year long about how, his confidence has been something's been off with him. He seemed a little shaken out on the court. And I think Ohio State, he shot the ball well and got him more involved in it. Look, we don't want to base whether we think Rob Finney played well or not off of how many shots he makes. Him being able to make shots is a bonus, but we want Al being a defender that keeps everybody under control. And defensively, he's a big part of this game. If he could stay out of foul trouble against Cassius Winston, Indiana's going to be in a much better place, in a much better position. If Rob Finney controls the offense and gets the ball where it needs to go and continues to feed the post and get it inside, but his shooting, I mean, he shot 2 for 7 in the Nebraska game, 1 for 5 from 3. I mean, if that's why you think his confidence is down, I disagree. I don't base what I think Rob did for Indiana off of his offensive output. But it sure is a bonus. And Rob is going to be an integral part of Indiana being able to defend Cassius Winston this Thursday.
Absolutely. Mike, anything you got that people need to know about?
We were taking a look at the upcoming schedule and, talking a lot about some of the things we talked about here last week. Is Indiana, in these last 13 games in a better position to endure a gauntlet than they were last year? And I think the answer is clearly yes for a lot of the reasons that we talked about: their size, their ability to get to the foul line. I think they're already ahead of where they were defensively last year. So, I think, like everyone, they're going to struggle here over these last 13 games, but I don't think you're going to see anything that, where things just completely go sideways like they did last year.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's three words that factor into that are much different than last year: Trace and Jackson and Davis. Those three words are something that Indiana is going to be able to build a lot more on that separates them from where they were last year.
Absolutely. Mike Schumann, I can't thank you enough, man. Make sure you check out his free IU content at the Daily Hoosier.
Thanks, guys. Have a great week.
You betcha. There's Mike Schumann joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat. We got plenty more coming up. We got more to come up to close the show out from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Can't believe, again, man, this thing is flown today, Todd. Flying along.
Yep. Mondays sometimes squeak by, but this has been a fast one.
Oh, I'm telling you. We got more coming back right after this. Stay tuned.
I know you want the whole one, now turn straight, but I'm about to blow one. Fight that mic, I know you never stop.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs, Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
I'm Rain Shaddy, and I'm a Hoosier. As a toddler, you could always find me running around in a cream and crimson onesie and a red IU hat reminiscent of those worn during the world-famous William Tell timeout, shouting, "Go Hoosiers!" Like many other alum, I chose to make Bloomington my home. As a civic and alumni leader, I have become very knowledgeable about our community and would love to share my insights with you as your realtor. Find me on Facebook or call or text me, Ryan Shaddy, with FC Tucker Bloomington Realtors at 765-623-9093.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and it's open to the public in the round beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington.
This is AJ Moye.
This is Dan Dawkins.
Hey, this is Michael Lord, former Indiana basketball player.
This is Indiana football coach Tom Allen.
This is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat. You can always like and follow us on Facebook. Always follow the show rebroadcast on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Spotify. TheDailyHoosier.com is a great place to sign up for each and every day. Or, of course, on 97.7 The Ref in Evansville.
Bad theater seats, cheap Halloween masks, my apartment, all things with obstructed views. Add to these large trucks and buses. 18-wheelers and large buses have big blind spots, and like my apartment, they don't always have the best view. Bus and truck drivers deal with blind spots around the entire vehicle. Always take care not to ride alongside or too close behind them. Our roads, our safety. Learn more at sharetheroadsafely.gov.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
watch our strange camp people.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat. Coyle Larry coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios here on this Monday. A chilly Monday. Or not. Today Monday? Yeah,
Yep.
it is Monday. Skipped a birthday yesterday. Yesterday was William Roger Reynolds' birthday. Happy birthday, Roger. We appreciate you. Big Raj from Reynolds Family Dentistry, Southern Indiana. You know, if you need a dentist in Southern Indiana, they're in Sellersburg. That's where you need to be.
Reynolds family. You're important when you go by three names. William Roger Reynolds.
RFD on top of it. Matt Canada's birthday was also Sunday. Former football coach here at Indiana. Thought there may be signs of him coming back, but that didn't happen. He's had a couple opportunities, and it didn't happen. But just a few birthday wishes out there for everybody. It doesn't feel like, man, this is a weird Monday. It's not. It's been fast. It's, whew. Boy, it's just like this is just like a snack here. It wasn't even full meal.
It's because of winning on the road. That's what it does to you. Euphoric.
Winning helps. No doubt about that.
It doesn't hurt. I mean, think of all the negativity we'd be talking about right now.
It puts everybody in such a better mood.
Ugh, it's gross. Imagine trying to be a never mind. I won't even say it. Nothing.
Let's see. Ron says 6'6" Jordan Geronimo looks like he will be similar to Troy Williams, but more in control.
Speaking of out of control.
Yeah, and then is the next three words, but more in control. He will be exciting to watch. Had 30 points and 2 monstrous dunks a couple of games ago. Yeah, I mean, it'll be nice to see what kids like that do once they get to Indiana. But yeah, I mean, being an athlete is a great start. I mean, if you've got that kind of athletic ability, that's a great start. But
yeah, I mean, it's hard to the athletic ability part of it's just. I mean, that translates that transfers with you. But I don't know that you can base a whole lot of what you see in high school. I mean, you can base a little bit of it, but I don't know that you can really predict what someone's going to be like in college based on that, because the competition level is just so much lower.
Who do you got in the Super Bowl?
Well, I mean, I think you got to go with the fun offense. I mean, I think I do. The story is Patrick Mahomes. I mean, he's so much fun to watch. He's easy to root for. A kid just says everything right. I mean, just everything is great. That defense for San Francisco is so good. It's going to be, I mean, it's truly a battle of the offense versus the defense, because
it's like a video game offense.
It's unbelievable. I mean, they've got so many weapons. Here's going to be the difference. If Patrick Mahomes has time to throw the ball, they're going to win. I don't think you can beat him. I don't think anybody can beat him.
He is so relaxed, calm back there. And that's where we talked about Lamar Jackson earlier. That's where Lamar's got to get to. He's just doesn't have the experience yet. But man, I think that because Mahomes was such the offense he came in was just so much more. And you would think that Lamar Jackson under Bobby Petrino, that's a complicated offense. But you can just see Mahomes is just so in control.
Yeah, he is. And let's also not forget the fact of he's playing for one of the great offensive minds. I mean, Andy Reid is a guy that's so creative offensively. I'm not even trying to rip him. I'm just saying, I mean, Lamar Jackson plays for Harbaugh. I mean, I don't think Harbaugh's ever been described as a creative offensive genius.
How happy is everybody across the NFL that Andy Reid's in the Super Bowl?
Everybody. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, everybody likes this guy. You can't hear somebody say something negative about him. Even San Francisco fans will be like, yeah, I still probably like Andy Reid.
And it's 50 years since Kansas City was in their last Super Bowl.
Crazy.
I mean, we're talking back in the beginning of the NFL.
Hey, we know there's some crazy fan bases. The Pittsburgh Steelers, the Oakland Raiders. I mean, there's some crazy fan bases. Even Cleveland Browns. Freaking Pat Graham is an insane Cleveland Browns fan and always has been. But man, when you look at Kansas City, and I've always heard this, and I don't know why, but we've always heard that Arrowhead is like the loudest stadium in the country. And you're like,
Seahawks.
Why?
Yeah, they've got nothing else to do. There's nothing else to do out there, man. It's
I don't disagree, but I mean, it's always been one of the things you've heard. I agree. Seahawks, and that's another thing. I've never been there. I've never experienced it. I don't know.
They've been very loyal. Those Kansas fans have been so loyal.
Yep. No doubt. And
they have been.
This is
in baseball too. Remember they got them a World Series a couple years ago.
Yep.
So things have been good. They got steaks, man. They got it going on out there right now. It's a good place to
barbecue. They got
barbecue.
That's a good place to live. I don't know why nobody wants to live there.
I got cousins that live in Kansas City.
Everybody has cousins that live in Kansas City.
I wish they'd send me some Omaha steaks right now.
Yeah.
I love me some Omaha steaks.
Aren't those from Nebraska?
Yeah, but close enough.
Just saying.
Yeah, beef, it's what's for dinner.
Kansas City barbecue. Isn't it Kansas City known for barbecue?
Yeah, there's that. There is definitely that.
What'd you say, Jake?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I know. That's such a weird scenario, the way that whole thing is down there. You get into that Overland Park area. Like, I don't know if I'm in Kansas or Missouri. I don't know where to say I am. It's weird.
Yep, man, it's been a good one. Indiana women back at it tonight. Don't forget about them. They'll be
Need to get them back on track tonight.
Yeah, got to get them back on track. They're on it's a tough one, man. They're at Maryland. This is going to be a tough game. Let's see if they can bounce back from just a bad loss. I hate to say that about this team. They've had such a great year, so you can't cut on them. But man, just such an uncharacteristic loss that game. They just didn't. Wow, gave up a 12-point fourth quarter lead, and just uncharacteristic of how well they've played this year, especially at home. So it was a little surprising. And this is a tough ask, man. You're going into the Lions Den here down at Maryland's women's program.
Yeah, they've got they've got to try to bounce back in a very difficult position and situation. I mean, this is not going to be an easy one. What is that? I think that game's on the Big Ten Network tonight, isn't it?
I think so.
I think it is. 8 p.m. Eastern time tip tonight, but that'd be a good one for them to come back. It's a tough scenario. Sometimes you gotta fight all against everything, and they don't have the easiest scenario trying to go to Maryland and win, but this would definitely get them back on track.
Absolutely. Well, man, it's been another great show. We appreciate everybody as always, and we get to do the greatest thing is we get to do it all again tomorrow, Todd.
Can't wait. Look forward to it.
Me either. Thanks a lot to the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fischer. Also, Mike Schumann from the Daily Hoosier was on with us today as well. So we got to hear from Trace Jackson-Davis, Archie Miller, and Joey Brunk as well. So look forward to getting to do it all again tomorrow. Thanks a lot to Jake, keeping us on the track, and for Todd Leary for keeping us going in the backcourt. Until then, I'm Jim Coyle, and I will see you on the radio.